Hi, and welcome to the Ohio Valley Sports Blog Video Podcast on the NFL's Week 10. I'm BJ.
I'm Cody.
I'm Ian.
All right, let's start off with the better team in the AFC North nowadays, the Cleveland Browns. Coming off an impressive win. What are you looking forward to going forward?
I don't think this bye week could have come at a better time for this team. Just, it's about this time people are beat up with injuries. Their wear and tear on the body starts to show up. But that win over Baltimore was so huge on so many levels. It's the first time in 11 straight games that Cleveland has actually beaten the Baltimore Ravens. So you can't imagine how much confidence that's going to inject into the team. Man, oh man, how good has Jason Campbell been since he stepped into that starting role? This team looks entirely different with him running that quarterback position, running that offense, than it has with anybody else that I've seen. I mean, you think about it, on Sunday he turned in another great performance, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, and again, no turnovers on the ball. That's in an offense that over the years has been so turnover prone, so apt to give the ball up in big situations. To have a guy in there, and through 2 games he has yet to throw a pick against the best turnover defense in the NFL in the Chiefs, and then the Baltimore Ravens, who I know are a little depleted on the defensive side of the ball, but still they have a lot of young guys who can get after the football really, really well. One thing that I don't think we've talked about enough in terms of the Browns is this year, I think more than any other year that I can remember, they have a definite home field advantage. A definite home field advantage. Through their home games thus far, they've averaged 71,000 fans per game. And you can see that the fans that are there are being really, really disruptive. They're being really, really loud. You think back to Sunday's game against Baltimore. Cleveland's defense registered 5 sacks, which is an impressive number in and of itself. And when you think that 4 of those sacks were on third downs, when the crowd got up on their feet, they made it difficult to hear changes at the line. It's something that's good to see in Cleveland, to see this city rally behind this team, and this team finally perform to the expectations of the city and the fan base that has waited for so long to see something, any sign of life from this team, that things are getting better, and it's finally starting to show that. And I'll just say this game next week against Cincinnati just got a hell of a lot more important.
Mm-hmm.
Just got much, much bigger. You figure Cleveland's 2 games back of Cincinnati as of right now for the lead in the division. Cincinnati has to go play Baltimore this Sunday, and then the Browns come to town with an opportunity, given that Baltimore has a shot to beat Cincinnati. I mean, the AFC North has been so wide open. I can't tell you who's going to win on any given week. It's just been an absolutely crazy division. So you figure Cleveland has a chance to maybe really get back into this division race. Really, really get back into a shot of winning this division. And it's always nice if you can take the 2 games from the Cincinnati Bengals in a given year. That's always a great event if you're a Browns fan. Things are looking up, but Browns fans know cautious optimism is the way to go with this team. We're happy about what we've seen, but we're not ready to say anything too big yet.
Yeah, I mean, they've been really solid this year in games where Brandon Weeden hasn't started. I wasn't aware of this hashtag that Ian pointed out to me the other day. Literally anyone but Weeden. I mean, you have Brian Hoyer, a journeyman in the NFL, go in. They looked good. You had Jason Campbell, who was a former first-round pick, but has become a journeyman, come in. They look great. So, I mean, they've been really solid the past couple of weeks. I know they lost to Kansas City, but Kansas City really jumped out to a quick start in that game, and Cleveland just battled back. They only allowed, 3
second-half points?
So, I mean, they really gave a good performance against the NFL's only undefeated team. And then this week beating Baltimore is huge. Like you said, I mean, it's been 11 straight meetings. I think it's 2007 was the last time they beat Baltimore.
Yeah.
And that really messes with your psyche that you can't beat a division opponent.
And of all division opponents,
the one who stole your team.
Yes, of all the division opponents that you just can't figure out a way to beat. If there's a team in the division that I think Cleveland fans would choose that they could beat just once in a given year outside of Pittsburgh, I think it'd be Baltimore.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really looking good going into the bye week for the Browns. It sets up really nice that they have the bye week right before the big game with Cincinnati next week. Then you look after that, they have Pittsburgh, which is a very winnable game. So I mean, they have a chance to be 6-5 if they take care of business against Cincinnati. And even at 4-5, one game under 500, they're sitting at contenders in the AFC this year because no one is stepping up to take that second wild card spot. It's like who wants it the least. I mean, it's like everyone's just handing it to each other. There's really no solid teams in the AFC outside of the division leaders and Kansas City and Denver. I mean, one of them's going to win the division. One of them's going to get the first wild card. So, I mean, you really have a wide open spot. And at this point, with Jason Campbell playing and not Brandon Weeden, I see no reason why it couldn't be the Browns who take that final spot in the AFC.
Right. I think us as Pittsburgh fans, against New England, that was the last hope. So we're probably pretty much out of it. The thing I've been impressed with this year, Ian, is the play of first-round pick Arkevious Mingo.
Absolutely.
Coming in to next week's game, the tackles, he only has 15. Doesn't jump out at you. Not a whole lot. Not bad.
Yeah.
But he has 4 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they drafted him to do. They drafted him to rush the passer, and that's what he's done. And if I was a Cleveland fan, if he had 4 sacks the entire year, I would be excited as a rookie. And he has it about a halfway point through the season.
Well, you got to think, those 4 sacks came in his first 4 starts.
Right.
He had a sack in every single one of his first 4 starts.
And Barkevious is probably the coolest name I've ever heard.
Right.
In the dog pound. I mean, come on.
And
Come on.
Also, Joe Hayden's really stepped up his play the last couple of weeks.
That
too.
whole defensive secondary
Right.
has been lights out the last couple of weeks. Really, really impressive. The whole group of them.
I just want to pose one question to you, and I know we were talking about it earlier. Cleveland, they're 4-5 right now. They're in they have a good shot at winning the division and maybe getting that second wild card.
Yeah.
Just think though, in 2012 they drafted Brandon Weeden and Trent Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, they're getting a first round pick somehow for Richardson, who has been
terrible
really since he left Cleveland. But just think, they had 2 first round picks 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How much better would they have been if they had gotten a Doug Martin or just anybody else, maybe a receiver? So I think if you're a Cleveland fan, you're more than happy at this point. You're 4-5,
Yeah.
and you have a chance to get back to 500 and get into the chance division. But the future is looking even better because they'll have 2 first round picks this year.
Yes.
And I think this time they had the right management, they had the right coach.
Yeah.
They're not going to waste their opportunity
No.
this time.
Okay, let's move on to the train wreck of a team that we used to refer to as the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming off just an awful loss against New England. I mean, their playoff hopes were pretty much summed up in Oakland when they lost, but there's just the slightest glimmer of hope, and then that was just all but crushed against New England. 55-31, it was the most points ever allowed by the Steelers, ever.
Most yards.
610 yards, most yards allowed ever.
I mean,
it's just a mess in Pittsburgh. I mean, for a team that has such a rich history, so proud. But I mean, that's what bad drafting does. I mean, it seems like they've missed on almost every pick from 2007 until now, which is when Mike Tomlin started drafting. Now, he did take responsibility for that week. He said, all the players drafted since I've come here are my responsibility. But you got to draft better. I mean, that's where it starts in the NFL, in the draft.
Yeah, especially when you're a team like the Steelers, who are always in salary cap trouble.
Yeah.
They never seem to be under the salary cap, so they can't make big signings.
And for a team that prides itself on saying, well, if you want the big money, walk. I mean, they did it to Mike Wallace.
Uh-huh.
They've done it to the cornerback, Keenan Lewis, who went to New Orleans. So, I mean, if you want the big money, you're not getting it in Pittsburgh,
Unless
with the
you're
exception of Ben
Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger with the $100 million contract. So, any thoughts on this week's matchup with Buffalo, or are you just more concerned with the team as a whole at this point
Well, going into Buffalo, well, it's in Pittsburgh.
in Pittsburgh?
It's a winnable game, like all the games have been. Buffalo hasn't. I mean, they showed signs. They've played well.
I mean, they might be. They could be the most impressive 3-6 team
Right,
in the league.
right.
Really.
I mean, they're in most of the games they
Yes.
play. But it just goes. You're right, BJ. It just goes back to bad drafting, not taking responsibility, and the biggest thing is the stubbornness not to change. Asked in his press conference by Joe Starkey, I believe, he said, "Do you still have?" He asked Mike Tomlin, "Do you still have confidence in Dick LeBeau that he can stop opposing offenses?" Tomlin replies, "Absolutely." Joe Starkey asks him, "Well, why? What?" He says, "'Cause he's Dick LeBeau. That's why." Well, I mean, I understand Dick LeBeau's a legend and what all he's done for the game. But I mean, the offense has just been downright or the defense has just been downright horrible this year. And whether I just don't know. They need a change, and whether he's refusing the change or they just because I find it hard to believe it's not. I understand it's on the players to a point, but it's also on the coordinator.
But I mean, you got to think. This is 1 year. This has
been building up.
This is 1 year.
Ian, this
though.
has been building.
No, it started with the playoff game in Denver. It was a 12-4 years, a really solid year. But you go out, you lose in the first round, and get upset by a Denver team. Okay, I mean that's a fluke. It's not going to happen. Next year, you struggle to 8-8. You struggle. I mean, you pull out all the stops to finish at 8-8, and then the next year you're sitting there at 2-6. I mean, this isn't oh, it's a fluke like the 9-7 year in 2009, the 8-8 year in 2006, or even the 6-10 year in 2003 where they got Roethlisberger in the draft the next year. This is an alarming trend. I mean,
and what's bad though, BJ, is when we give the money to the older players. I mean, we gave
stuck with them.
Right, we gave the money to Polamalu, which I mean, a lot of people want to get on. I think he's played relatively well this year.
Minus the
New England game. That was his worst game probably in his career. But it's small things that they need to change on the defense, like having Polamalu, putting him back in his safety spot, not taking his ability to roam, but when Polamalu plays in that linebacker spot, just bad things usually tend to happen. Busted coverage somewhere, so something like that.
He doesn't have the defensive backfield that they once had where he could do that.
Cover. He's getting older too.
You would think in the past, I mean, yeah, Polamalu can do what he wants, because you have solid corners and another solid safety. Ryan Clark has been horrible this year. Go to ESPN. Retire. I am sick of you. I'm sick of you saying how much, oh, you don't understand, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you don't care about the players. You just care about the team. Spending your bye week at ESPN when you're 0-4, if that's what you want to do, just retire already.
Yeah, and BJ, I would not mind seeing Shamarko Thomas play in that position.
No, he's been great as a nickelback in dime packages.
I mean,
this year.
Tom Brady torched him and picked on him, but that's what Tom Brady does.
Tom Brady
does that.
Tom Brady, rookie defensive back.
You know another change they could make? They could take William Gay out, who got absolutely embarrassed.
He's too slow. He's past his prime.
And you put in Cortez Allen, a young guy, big young guy. And if he's not your answer at the cornerback position, that's fine. But you got to give him the shot to at least find out. I mean, at this point,
what do you have to lose?
Exactly.
What do you have to lose?
You have nothing to lose at this point.
And the same thing, BJ and Ian, with Jarvis Jones. Jarvis Jones did not play all that much in favor of Jason Worlds. Well, Jason Worlds had his shot. You need to get.
But has Jason Worlds really been that bad in that position?
He's not been bad, but he's not been good.
He's not the future.
Well, I understand that, but you got to get the figure that Jarvis Jones, obviously, you want him to be the future at that position.
Right.
But Is he ready yet? Is he ready
The
yet?
only
At
way
two,
he's
but at
gonna
2-5
learn.
or 2-6, what do you have to lose? Just
Exactly.
let him play.
Just let him
Let all
play.
your rookies play at this point. I mean, see what you have going forward.
And now that Marcus Whedon is back because he missed some time with that pinky injury, if he's not on the field more, I mean, this is the stuff I'm talking about. And I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm probably gonna get backlash from YouTube, maybe some other fans. Maybe towards the end of the year when we are probably 3-8, 3-9 or something, I'd probably sit Ben the rest of the year. I know Ben will never say he will want to, or I don't know if Mike Tomlin would ever do it. But why are you gonna risk injury for no reason?
I was listening to 1600 last night, and Steve Novotny was doing a segment on the NFL. He said he wouldn't be surprised to see Ben come up with an injury. I mean, why? Ian, if you're 3-8, 3-9, I mean, why not just shut Ben down for the rest of the year, who's injury prone, and see what you have in Leonard Jones?
My only philosophy in that is being that I think Mike Tomlin and the rest of that coaching staff kind of knows in the back of their mind what's coming in the offseason. And I feel like it's house cleaning time in Pittsburgh. And I feel like it's time for an organizational shift.
I'm hoping
now.
And I like Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I do. I like Mike Tomlin as a head coach. But it's like you said earlier. I think he is a stuck-in-his-way kind of guy. Mm-hmm. I think he's not adapt to changing the way things work.
Right.
He wants to coach this team like he coached the team that won a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
And it's not the same team.
No.
It isn't the same team.
And one of the most alarming stats, Ian actually had this. Heath Miller only has 24 receptions this year.
He's not healthy yet. He is
So
not even close.
I don't know if he's 100%, but the even more alarming stat is that Antonio Brown leads the league with 61 receptions. Now, that's great that he's leading the league in receptions, but he's really Ben's only weapon out there. I mean, Sanders has been decent this year, but
Jericho Cotchery has been
playing really well. I mean, with the 3 touchdowns this week.
Even before that, they're really.
But, I mean, Antonio Brown is.
And
it just kind of feels like Ben leans on him way too much.
All right, I'm going to bring this up to you, too. Again, during Tomlin's press conference, he said he benched Brown at the end of the game because he was doing nothing to help this team. At that point, when you're down
55-31 or what? I don't know if it was.
What is anybody doing to help your team when you get beat that bad?
Right, but I didn't see the point that Brown wasn't. I mean, he had no drops. No. He had a touchdown catch. BJ's right, he's leading the league in receptions. But if you're going to take Brown out and say that, and then when asked why Roethlisberger was still in there, he responded with, well, we need to get better. We all need to get better.
How is Antonio Brown getting better on the bench?
Exactly. No, but Roethlisberger, I mean, if there's one player on this team that doesn't need to be in there to get better, it's Roethlisberger. I mean,
did you see the shot he took at the end of the game? He was taking
what if he comes up injured in one of those?
I mean,
it's really bad coaching
and one last
management
thing here before we'll move on because we're pretty much beating the dead horse here because we've been talking about this for weeks. They were talking on the Fan and around Pittsburgh about how much power Mike Tomlin has in the draft room because he said, yeah, I take full responsibility for all these players. Think about this. Kevin Colbert's been in Pittsburgh for a while. He drafted with Cowher. Mm-hmm. Cowher and him drafted great players. Yes. Lots of great players like James Harris. Players like
Joey Porter.
Joey Porter. That's who
Troy Polamalu.
Okay. So obviously the problem is not Kevin Colbert. I think the problem is how much power does Tomlin have in that draft room, and is he the final say on picks? Because that's really not. I mean,
I don't know if he's the final say or not, but you're right. I mean,
Colbert's not a bad GM.
No, and he drafted really well when Cowher was there. I mean, Cowher's last year was the 2007 draft. That's the Lawrence Timmons draft, which is turned into a really great pick out of Timmons. I mean, just leading this defense. So then the 2008 draft is where Mike Tomlin started.
Right,
and you really don't see any impact players left. I mean, you have Mike Wallace, which was one of his better picks. He's gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than that, you just have busts like Jason Worlds. You have...
I'm not the only. I mean, he did draft Sanders and Brown.
Right.
Pouncey was a good pick.
But how many of those guys?
Castro was a good pick.
How many of those guys are real franchise-changing kind of guys, like the way Cowher used to bring
Exactly.
guys in?
I mean, you think
more on the defensive side, and really on the offensive line, Cowher and them really knew how to.
Yeah.
And
because Cowher knew the identity of this team.
I mean,
I feel like the Steelers at this point are a team that does not have an identity. What is the identity of this team? Are you going to be a running style team? Are you going to be a classic Pittsburgh Steelers kind of run the football team? Or are you going to be a throw kind of team? Are you going to be a spread the ball around guy?
I mean, and it all started when, and oh man, we could spend days on this.
Okay, let's
hold on.
All right.
And we all know when they let Bruce Arians go, that was Rooney's decision.
He retired.
Well, yeah, they let him go.
Right.
To keep they brought in Haley to keep Ben upright. Well, that ain't working.
No.
So,
but again, it's like the Troy Polamalu question with him roaming or whatever. Ben's best when he scrambles, when he breaks tackles.
Right.
Why would you want him to not do that? That's where he's made.
And that's why another change that needs to be towards. They need to let Ben call the plays. He's been in here long enough. He knows the offense. He knows how to read defenses. He should be calling plays.
Right. Let's move on to an NFC North matchup before we talk about the Trainwreck Steelers for another half hour. Two teams tied for first place. I mean, you have a three-way tie for first place with Detroit, Chicago, and Green Bay all being 5-3. This week you have the Lions going into Soldier Field to take on the Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, when Cutler went down, I mean, you really held your breath as a Bears fan, but I mean,
here comes McCown.
McCown has not looked bad at all. He looked really good in the Monday night one against Green Bay.
And he didn't really look that bad in that second half against Washington either. I mean,
so what do you expect to see this week at Soldier Field?
It's going to be a great matchup. Detroit has really had a bounce back year with Stafford. It's been playing well. What Reggie Bush brings to that offense, all the receivers. I mean, receivers when you have
Calvin Johnson looks like Calvin Johnson again.
Like
he looks like scary good Calvin Johnson again.
But this is, and we know what Detroit's gonna bring.
Yeah,
I really want to talk about Chicago and that offense. I mean, McCown has really got them playing so well, and I don't know if this is a shot at Cutler, but with McCown, they rely on the running game a little more. They lean on Matt Forte, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Look how balanced their offense was with them giving Forte the ball. He had over 200 all-purpose yards.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying Cutler doesn't hand the ball off enough, but there'll be times when Cutler goes down, it's inside the 4, inside the 5, and Cutler wants to throw the touchdown pass instead of giving it to Michael Bush or your all-purpose back and Forte. And I just been so impressed on how balanced the offense has been. I'm not suggesting you stick with McCown the rest of the way.
No, obviously not.
But I mean, if
he's stepped into the role really nicely. But what I'm going to talk about more than that is this is a defense that's playing without its leader right now in Lance Briggs.
They're still playing
well. They're still playing really, really well. I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers goes down on Monday night, and that completely changes that game.
Yes.
I mean, we can sit here and talk about all we want. Seneca Wallace is not Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to be.
But he's going to compete for that Cleveland job, so, you better watch out.
Let's not talk about that. No, but that defense still looked really, really good without Lance Briggs.
Right.
They still look really impressive. They've got their test this week. This is a big test for that defense because Detroit is going to come at them, and they're going to score points, and they're going to score a lot of points. Can Chicago weather that storm? Are they going to be able to limit the damage, and are they going to be able to answer on offense when they need to? Can McCown turn in another? He doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have to win the game himself. He has to play well enough to give them a chance to win the game.
Yes.
You got to trust the other guys around you. You got to trust the other 10 guys on your offense, and you got to trust those 11 guys on defense that they're going to make the plays that will give you the best chance to win a game. And I feel like through the couple of games that he's had to play, he's done that really, really well. He's got to do it again Sunday.
Yeah, and looking at the Detroit side of this, I mean, this was a make or break year for Detroit.
Yeah.
You had the playoff year a couple years ago, and then last year you had a 4-12 year. So I mean, if you're a Detroit fan, you're really curious to see which one's the trend. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's obviously shown itself that they're a playoff team. They're a good
Absolutely.
team. I mean, they've looked really good with Reggie Bush. He just adds another dimension to that offense. I mean, Matthew Stafford, sure, I mean, Megatron's putting up all these numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the best in the game. But he does a really good job of spreading the ball around to all his receivers and utilizing all his weapons on offense. And defensively, I mean, they have probably one of the best defensive lines in all of football. I mean, you
Yeah.
have Nick Fairley and Ndamukong Suh right together on the line. I mean, that's something
Who's
you
gonna,
do. That's
who's gonna
something-
block that?
That's something you don't want to see as an opposing
That's
quarterback.
something that happens when you get a franchise mode in Madden and you turn the salary cap off,
Right.
just to make sure that you can go get all the best players. That's what you get, because that is a ridiculous part of that defensive line.
Yeah,
So-
and real quick, B, in terms of staying in that division with the Rodgers injury, what does that do for them? I mean, a broken collarbone is
I
going to
mean,
keep you out
he
about
said-
4 weeks.
Rodgers wants to say he's going to be out for 3 weeks. Experts are saying 6 weeks.
That's what I'm saying.
So I mean,
4 is the best case scenario.
I'd say probably about 4 or 5 weeks he'll be
Here's
out.
the thing, though. The way the Green Bay Packer organization works, if Aaron Rodgers went into the Packers office tomorrow and said, I want to play this week, he would be
Play.
in pads
Oh, he
starting
would,
the
he
game
would.
on Sunday.
I'm just saying.
My question is going to be, if the Packers struggle, is Aaron Rodgers going to rush
Rush
himself
himself
back too soon and risk further injury to himself?
Yeah, that's. I mean, that
I would
really.
hope not, but I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
Now, do they?
He needs to get back as soon as possible
does.
because you have Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay in the north. Then you go out west and you have 2 playoff teams. So I mean, there's 5 teams going for 4 spots.
Yeah.
So you can't fall too far back.
And we saw what happened with Seneca Wallace at quarterback
Yeah.
the rest of that game. Now, granted, Eddie Lacy, who Pittsburgh passed on,
but
is
it's
leading
say-
the league in rushing. So you can rely on him.
But say
But-
you have a week to game plan. I mean, I'd imagine with an athletic quarterback like Wallace, you're going to see a lot of the read option with Lacy. So if you have a week to game plan and you're just not throwing him in, it might not be as bad.
Right,
But it's definitely.
but with the read option stuff, that's only going to last you a week or so until NFL defenses pick up
Oh
on
yeah.
You've seen what's happened to the
right.
production of
All-
guys like Robert Griffin III and things like that. They can't run that read option as well.
yeah, I
anymore.
mean,
They've
all I'm
shut that
saying-
down.
All I'm saying is, do you think the Packers go out and sign another quarterback?
No.
Or do
I
they
think-
stick with Wallace?
I'd like to see them bring Matt Flynn in to take that. To take
I
that
thought
role.
you were going somewhere else with that, Ian.
No, I'd like to see them. They've got Matt Flynn on that roster.
It
He
wouldn't
was
be,
there.
It wouldn't be horrible to
It
bring
wouldn't
him in.
be.
I mean, the one game he had that has sprung him to all these millions of dollars
was a 6
was
touchdown.
with Green Bay, and he just
Yeah.
let all his receivers do the work for him.
I thought, Ian, you were gonna say give number 4 a call.
No.
Let him play a
Okay,
couple
no,
shut up.
games.
Shut
Okay.
up.
Let him retire,
not do
Packer.
that. No.
We're gonna move
Okay.
on to the AFC North showdown between the Cincinnati
no
Bengals
fun.
and the Baltimore Ravens. You have the Bengals. I mean, with the exception of the Browns, kind of running away with the AFC North. I mean, they haven't been terribly impressive this year, but the rest of the AFC North has not been good at all.
No.
And then you have Baltimore. I mean, coming off the Super Bowl win, they've just looked awful this year.
Of course, you can't say too much about that when you lose Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and Anquan Bolton.
No,
I mean, those are 3 absolutely
Paul Kruger.
huge play, and Paul Kruger goes to a division rival.
Yeah.
So you really have a matchup here. Like Baltimore struggling and all, but you could easily see them beating Cincinnati.
Yeah, especially after how bad Cincinnati looked Thursday night in Miami.
Right.
I mean, that was an awful performance. Giovanni Bernard was the only good part about.
And I don't even know
Cincinnati
how
for
he
that
scored
game.
on that touchdown.
Oh,
Again,
nobody's ever going to figure out how he scored on that touchdown. Nobody's ever going to figure that out.
Is it me though, or is this matchup kind of not what it used to be?
No, it doesn't have the same kind
right,
of
it's
important
not-
feel like you
No,
figured
I
it
mean,
would.
should.
at
I
this
mean,
point in
the
the year.
the past couple years, I mean, you had the two of them and the Steelers all gunning for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it was important. I mean, it was really important for them to not get in the wild card for which one to win the division.
Right.
And let's be
And I mean,
completely
this
honest,
year-
it's not like Baltimore's entirely out of the playoff
No,
race
No,
yet.
but they.
With the loss here,
With
they
the
are.
loss here, they more than likely are.
I mean, that's coming off a Super Bowl, granted with all the losses, but
Yeah.
coming off a Super Bowl, that's
Didn't think they'd be this
far
bad.
far
I mean,
away to fall.
Ray Rice and Bernard Pierce are both averaging under 3 yards a carry.
Well, Baltimore might have the worst offensive line
I was
I've ever
going to
seen
say
in
that.
my
I don't.
life.
I don't think so.
Their
I don't
offensive
think that's so
line
much an
is
indictment
absolutely
of them.
No.
terrible.
I think that's more an indictment on their offensive line. I mean, they.
And let's be honest, Cleveland's defensive front is really, really good. They are good, but the Browns held Ray Rice last week to 20 yards on 11 carries.
It's unbelievable.
They're not that good.
They're not that good. They're not. I love the Browns defense, but that has to rest more on the offensive line than it does Ray Rice, because we know how good Ray Rice
Right.
can be.
I'm just saying.
And I mean, as an offensive lineman for the Ravens, that's embarrassing.
And-
Knowing you
and we
have
know-
one of the best running backs in the league.
And Bernard Pierce is a really
And
good
Bernard
running back
Pierce
too.
to spell him, and you can't even spring them.
No. And that's what I'm saying. It really puts pressure on Flacco, which,
Yeah,
I mean, where's Torrey
Well-
Smith been this year? Where's
Torrey Smith's been about the only reliable option he has in that
I
offense.
know, but you're still not seeing the 40 yard
No,
touchdowns.
but with the departure of Bolden, you're not going to see that.
No.
Bolden was probably one of the most underrated players in football last
Yeah.
year. He made that offense click. He ran those routes across the middle that sprung Torrey Smith deep.
I always said this about Anquan Bolden. I've said this his entire career. He's a linebacker who plays wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is absolutely huge. He takes those shots across the middle, and he's such a great playmaker that it forces defenses to come up on him, and that's why you saw guys like Torrey Smith get deep. That's why you saw those things like that.
And you saw Dennis Pitta,
Yeah.
wide open on the other side of the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Just not a whole lot going right for Baltimore this year. And Cincinnati, just when I think Cincinnati,
Yeah, Cincinnati really took a step back last week.
yeah, just when I'm ready to say Cincinnati, they're the best team in the AFC North. They have the division. They go out and Andy Dalton again, which this is what we've questioned all year in the last year or so. Can Andy Dalton be the guy?
I don't
And
think
he
can.
He didn't do it on.
I don't-
He didn't
against the
impress me
Dolphins.
on
I don't.
Thursday.
I don't think
Uh,
he can, because when you have a receiver like AJ Green, you have tight ends like Tyler Eifert and Jermaine Gresham, and you have a running back like Bernard Pierce or Giovanni Bernard. Excuse me. But I mean, when you have all those weapons and you have a good offensive line, your offense shouldn't stutter at all.
I mean, I'm not going to put all of this on him, but AJ Green has dropped a couple of passes the last couple of weeks too, which is completely uncharacteristic of AJ Green. And they're not big drops. They're not drops in the end zone. They're not drops on third down and 10 and things like that.
Mess with
But
your
it messes
confidence.
with your mind a
Yeah.
little bit, both as a receiver and as a guy throwing him the football. You know, I mean, AJ Green is probably one of the premier wide
Top
receivers
five.
in the NFL.
I think it's him and then Megatron.
Well, Andre Johnson made a pretty serious case on Sunday
And-
night to
you
have his
have-
name
and-
thrown in that hat.
And you have Des Bryant, Larry Fitzgerald. So I mean,
Guys like that, but you still have to think that this Cincinnati offense, even in the games where they were scoring a lot of points, there's always felt like there's something wrong
Right.
with this team. It always felt like there's something that isn't really all there. We haven't talked about the defense because the defense has played pretty well for the majority of the year. They don't get blown out in games.
And
But
they've lost a lot.
I was
They've
gonna
lost
say,
players, and
Yeah.
they
you
still
lose a
play.
lot when you lose Geno Atkins, though.
Yes.
I mean, he's one of the best
Leon
defensive
Hall.
fronts in
Leon
the.
Hall.
And they're still finding a way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to a NFC showdown. The 5-3 Carolina Panthers, really flourishing under Cam Newton this year. Going to 6-2 San Francisco, second place. Or no, they're tied now with Seattle won. They came back and won. So second place in the NFC West. I mean, two really quality teams, two
Yeah.
physical teams going at it. What do you expect this week, Cody?
This is the year that I think everybody, or Carolina and the Cam Newton supporters, were waiting for.
Yes.
He's finally figured it out. I mean, he's not I mean, he still runs and he's still a freak athlete. But I mean, he's smarter with the ball. He's not forcing stuff. The other day, I watched the Thursday night game they last played.
Yeah.
He was taking a sack, saw the guy coming. Instead of trying to make a miss, he tucked the ball and took the sack.
Yes.
Because he's understanding the offense. He's spreading it out. He's handing the ball off, and they're only going to get better because Jonathan Stewart's just now back, so
Yes.
they have him. D'Angelo Williams is finally playing better. An underrated acquisition on the Mike Tolbert.
Yeah.
He has 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks, I
Mhm.
think. Everything just seems to be going right for Carolina, and you kind of like to see that. Carolina's one of those teams that
I've always liked Carolina.
Right,
I've
I mean,
always
you-
liked
you
Carolina.
don't hate 'em.
You can't hate
right,
Carolina. They
no.
don't.
and their defense is playing really well.
Absolutely.
Their physical defense. And quick question. Switching to the 49ers. Remember when everybody thought they were in trouble at 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Now they're 6 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show.
And the weird thing is that they've quietly become a 6
Right,
and 2
no-
team.
yeah,
Nobody's
exactly.
really talked about how good they played the
And
last few
Crabtree
weeks.
just got clearance to
Yeah.
start practicing, so they're going to get him back. Put him with Bolden,
Oh,
Vernon Davis, Frank Gore.
I mean, that's a really good team out in San Francisco. Like you said, a lot of people were freaking out after the 1 and 2 start, but they have routed off 5 straight wins. I mean, and they've looked good in those wins too. Colin Kaepernick, everyone was questioning after the 1 and 2 start. Was last year a fluke because everyone figured him out?
Mhm.
No, he's a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
And the thing that separates him is he's a quarterback who throws first but can run. He's
Mhm.
not a Mike Vick type. He's not going to run the ball and then at the last second throw it. No, he's going to look to throw first. Then when all else fails, he'll run. I mean, and like always, the solid San Francisco defense. So this is going to be a really good game on Sunday.
I mean-
really physical game.
Who'd have thought that we'd be talking about at the start of the year? Who'd have thought we'd be talking about this matchup between Carolina and San Francisco
I didn't see it coming.
No.
as a really really good game to watch? I definitely didn't expect it. I thought Carolina was going to be just absolutely unwatchable, and they really started out like it, but they've really kind of figured out their identity as a team. They've really kind of figured out what they like to do, and they're doing it really really well. And it's like you said, Cam Newton has come into his own in this league now. This is the year that a lot of people have been waiting to see from him. Carolina put their neck out there, taking him in the top spot in that draft. And this is where you start to see it pay the dividends. Years like this are what they've been waiting for in Carolina. This is what they've wanted to see from him since they brought him into the organization. He had a good first year, not an elite first year, but a good first year. He kind of regressed a year ago, and now it seems like he's finally settled into this league. He's settled into this system, and he's playing really, really confident.
Right.
Well, he's a guy, I mean, since he first came into the league, who's been putting up good stats. It's just been turnover problems.
Yeah.
But like Cody said the other night when the play with the sack and he tucked the ball, I mean, normally that's a play where he tries to throw the ball, someone bats out his hand, they run it back for a touchdown. But he's really maturing into a really good quarterback.
Right, and I would even argue, before Andrew Luck and RG3 came along, Newton's, we forget about his first year. He threw
Yeah.
for over 4,000 yards.
Absolutely.
I mean, and you guys are right. It was just the turnovers.
Yeah.
And last year, you're right. He did. He took the step back. He was like, oh man, he's going to be an elite quarterback. And then he took the step back, and now everybody was questioning him. And this is the really important year, and he's really stepped up and answered. I'm looking for a really good game. Let's move on to another NFC matchup with the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New Orleans Saints. Ian, you got some opening thoughts on this?
I know this is a good matchup in terms of, on paper and the records and everything like that, but I don't know. I just don't have any interest in watching this for some reason. And I think a lot of it has to do with I just don't like the Dallas Cowboys, and I just don't have any interest in watching them at all. And I know that's probably going to upset a lot of you, and I'm sorry, but I just cannot. I can't. Just something about that team that I've just never liked. And it's not the attitude. It's not the America's team kind of thing.
Is it Tony Romo?
It's not Tony Romo even. It's just that I can't put my finger on it.
Huh.
Oh wait, I think I got it. Des Bryant. That's it. I can't stand you, Des Bryant. I've never liked you. I don't think you're as good as you think that you are, and I don't think you're as good as everyone makes you out to be. You're a stuck-up, arrogant brat who tries to push everybody around and get your way, and when things don't go your way, you throw temper tantrums and try and bully everybody around. I'm sick of your attitude. That's what I'm sick of.
Okay.
That was really.
I
Didn't
mean,
see that coming.
right? No, I didn't.
I'm full of surprises.
he has been really fiery on the sidelines. I mean, when you see it, you think it's a big deal. Former NFL players try to downplay it. I don't know. I mean, the one that really got a lot of media attention, reportedly he was pumping his fist, going, "We're good. We can do this. We're better than this." There's no problem with that. But I mean, was he really saying that?
Absolutely not. Are you
Or
kidding
is it
me?
everyone else covering up for it?
Absolutely.
But let's not.
But let's take a look at this matchup. I mean, it's two first place NFC teams. Sure, the Dallas Cowboys have 4 losses, but that's really on their defense. And they're playing with a whole bunch of scrubs on defense. A lot of injury problems this year, but their offense has been phenomenal. I mean, Tony Romo continues to be a really good regular season quarterback. I mean, take the clutch factor out of it, take the playoff factor out of it, and just watch this guy. I mean, he's really good. And you have New Orleans, who's been once again phenomenal on offense. I mean, you have Drew Brees, you have all his receivers. So I mean, I see this to be like the Dallas and Denver game. I see this to be really high scoring. Whoever blinks first, or whoever has that big turnover, or whoever has the ball last is going to win this game.
Right,
But Des Bryant is a jerk.
and not defending Des Bryant. I do think he's a talented player who's yet to figure it all out. I think he will eventually, but he's not the only person that yells on the sidelines. Nobody ever makes a report about Brady or Manning or everybody else yelling on the sidelines. And you can't tell me they don't do it because
I understand
I've seen
that.
it.
There's a difference between yelling on the sidelines and getting in your quarterback's face.
What about
yelling on the sidelines?
What about Terrell
There's a difference.
Owens? Owens used to do it all the time.
Does anybody like Terrell Owens?
Some people do.
Some people are stupid.
I saw it.
I'm just saying it happens. And
I saw a really interesting argument about this the other day. Does race play a factor in this? I mean, you see Tom Brady.
Come on.
No, B.
Come
no.
on.
You know, I'm going back to talk about the matchup. You and your Dallas. Yeah, they're in first place, but I mean, it took a last-second drive to beat the 1-7 Vikings. And all during that last drive, it was kind of like, when is Tony Romo going to throw the interception? And I've talked to, I know I have some friends who are Dallas fans, and they see, look what Romo can do. I'm not impressed. You led a last-minute drive against the 1-7 Minnesota Vikings. On the other side with New Orleans, I mean, Jimmy Graham has just been on a tear this year. Nobody can stop him. They just been playing really well. And for the most part, New Orleans' defense has kind of surprised me. They're still not where they need to be, but they show some flashes. And what a difference Sean Payton makes to this team. I mean, just, horrible last year. He comes back essentially the same team, and now they're going to be a playoff team. But let's move into some picks for this week.
This is what I'm waiting for. Let's start picking these games. I'm ready for it.
Okay, let's start with the Browns and the bye week.
You know what? For the first time in the last, 20 years, I think I'm going to take the Browns in the bye week.
I'm going to take the Browns as well.
Usually they lose in the bye week.
This is something new.
Yeah, they usually find a way to lose during the bye week.
I will take the points in the bye week.
I'll take Let's start with the Bills and the Steelers, though, in all seriousness.
We weren't serious about that?
No, I mean, it's really good. The Browns are going to win their bye.
Yes!
I'm taking the points and I'm taking the bye. I think the bye will cover.
Okay. So. What's the spread on the bye?
I think they're a 7-point underdog.
Okay. Yeah, I'd take that too.
Okay. Let's start with the Bills and the Steelers. The Bills are 3-6, but like we said, they're really a really solid 3-6. I mean, they haven't had.
Can you be a solid 3-6?
It's kind of hard to be a solid 3-6.
But they haven't had consistent quarterback play all year, and not that their quarterbacks have been bad, but they've had 3 starters through 9 games.
Yeah.
So I mean, that really puts a damper on it. You would say the Steelers, but I don't think so. I think once again they find a way to lose. I think E.J. Manuel has a really good day, and I'm going to take the Bills in this one.
Yeah, it's last report, there was a report that Manuel will start, and then they're saying it's a long shot. At home, I just can't see the Steelers. I don't think they're going to right the ship and, rattle off 8 straight and go 10-6 or nothing, but I think they can beat the Bills, especially with the rookie quarterback. We saw what they did to Geno Smith. I'll take the Steelers in this one.
Let me think about this. Yeah. See, I understand what the both of you are saying. I understand the merits of there's a rookie quarterback, the game's in Pittsburgh, and all that leads me to think that the Steelers are going to win this game. And then there's just in the past couple of weeks of watching the Steelers, how absolutely dismal they've looked. They've looked absolutely terrible these last, really all year. I'll take the Bills. I'll take the Bills.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All right, we'll speed this up a little bit. Thursday night matchup. Washington at Minnesota. What a horrible matchup. But give me the Redskins in that one.
Give me the Redskins.
Give me the Skins too.
1:00 game. Seattle at the disappointing Atlanta Falcons. I'm gonna take the Seattle to keep on rolling. Big.
Give me the Falcons. Seattle doesn't play well on the East Coast. They almost lost last week. It really took a comeback
That
and
was at
overtime
home, though.
win.
That wasn't Seattle though.
Yeah, he's still going with the Falcons.
I'm still taking the Falcons.
Take the Falcons,
Okay.
B. I'll take Seattle in this game. I just like Russell Wilson too much.
Matchup of first place teams in NFC North. Detroit at Chicago. I really like the balance. Give me Detroit though.
I'll take the Lions.
I'll take the Bears. I'll play odd man out. I'll take the Bears.
It was close, but I just think Stafford's playing too well this year. An interesting matchup now that Green Bay's Rodgers is out. You got Nick Foles and the Eagles coming to town to take the Packers. This year, Foles has 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. With that running game with McCord, give me the Eagles in this one.
I'll take the Eagles. It's going to be a rough couple weeks for the Packers with Seneca Wallace at the helm.
Yeah, I'll take Philadelphia in this one too.
Wow, at Lambeau. Call number 4. All right, still not going with me on that one.
Nope.
All right, the 0-8 Jaguars against the Titans. Titans are playing really well with Locker. I'm going to take the Titans in this one, BJ.
Give me the Titans. They've looked solid all year. They had a little bit of a rough stretch when Locker went down, but he's back. It's the Jaguars. Give me the Titans.
Bold prediction: Jaguars win.
Very
okay.
bold.
I'm riding this out.
Okay. St. Louis at Indianapolis. St. Louis really hasn't looked the same since Bradford's been out. Not that they looked great, so I'm going to take the Colts. Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts.
Give me the Colts. They need to keep winning.
Yeah, I'll take Indianapolis as well.
Another horrible matchup. Oakland at the Giants. Give me Oakland in this one.
Oakland?
Give me Oakland.
I'll take Oakland as well. I just like to see Terrell Pryor do well. Why not? Just give me the Raiders.
Give me the Giants.
I mean, all signs point to the Giants in this one.
Yeah.
But they've been so disappointing.
Yeah, they've just let everybody down so much.
AFC North matchup. Cincinnati going into Baltimore. Give me Baltimore in the upset on this one. I think Cincinnati is really going to not get back on it because of that loss to Miami.
I'll take Cincinnati. They've bounced back and forth between good and bad all year, so I'll take a good game from them against Baltimore.
Give me the Bengals only because I don't want them to be coming off 2 straight losses when the Browns come to town.
Oh, well, that's a good reason. Another great matchup we talked about. Carolina going to San Francisco. As much as I like Cam Newton and as well as he's been playing, I think they come up a little short, especially at home. Give me the Niners.
I'll go ahead and take the Panthers. I think it's both teams are going to pound the ball on offense. But give me Cam Newton in this one. Give me the Panthers.
I love what Cam Newton's done with this team. I just don't feel like they've got enough around him to be able to hang with San Francisco. Give me the Niners in this.
Yeah. Houston going to Arizona. Give me Houston in this one.
Yeah.
I really like Case Keenum. And if Houston would have had a field goal kicker the other day, they would have won.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Houston in this one.
Give me Houston. Arizona hasn't been impressive. Houston, Keenum's looked really well and
might have
rallied
found their quarterback of the future.
And they're really going to rally around Gary Kubiak this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all thoughts and prayers go out to him
Absolutely.
after
and John
suffering.
Fox
And John Fox after Fox had heart surgery and Kubiak suffered a mini stroke while on the field the other day.
I'll take Houston as well on this one. Arizona's just been absolutely terrible.
As usual.
Yeah. Another matchup. Denver comes back from their bye. They're going to play the surprise team in the Chargers. Give me Denver in this one. This isn't a week they lose.
I'll take Denver, but I'd like to point out that San Diego, I mean, just a couple bad plays away from being right up there with
I
Denver
know. There's bad plays by Phillip Rivers is the difference in this one, I think.
I'll take the Broncos too. Why not? I just feel like Peyton Manning is
off
the
a bye
difference in this
week.
game.
Peyton
It's
Manning
Peyton
off
Manning.
a bye week.
The Sunday night matchup, Dallas going to New Orleans. Give me New Orleans in this one. It's Tony Romo. There's going to be a Romo-ism at the something's going to happen.
Right, I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but in the end, Tony Romo always finds a way to lose.
I'll take the team that doesn't have Des Bryant on their roster.
Okay, and just a horrible Monday matchup. I don't know what's going on with the Monday and Thursday matchup this week. Miami goes to Tampa Bay, who just looked bad. Got to take Miami in this one. I don't know.
It was really funny. The Monday night promo, Mark Tirico just served it right up on a platter. Miami's a mess. Tampa Bay's awful. See who sucks least this week. But like you said, I mean, Miami's looked good at some points in this season, so I'll take Miami against the winless.
They're still
winless
4-4.
Buccaneers team.
Miami's 4-4, so I wouldn't call them.
No, he's calling
I know.
them a mess because the.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
I'll take Miami. Tampa Bay is just one of the worst football teams I've ever seen.
Worse than the Steelers for some reason.
That's impressive.
Okay, thanks for watching this podcast, everyone. We'll see you next week.